The storm had come out of nowhere. One moment, the sky was a dull gray. The next, it roared with fury as if nature itself had turned against humanity. Huge chunks of ice, hailstones larger than golf balls, hammered down from above, shattering windshields and denting rooftops. Cars screeched to a halt on the lonely highway that cut through miles of desolate countryside. Ethan gripped his steering wheel tightly, cursing under his breath. He hated days like this, and he especially hated who fate had decided to throw into his path tonight. Maya sat in the passenger seat beside him, her arms crossed defensively across her chest. She didn't want to be here either. The tension between them crackled like static electricity in the air. They worked at the same marketing firm but despised each other for reasons neither could fully articulate anymore. Petty arguments over projects, passive-aggressive emails, snide remarks during meetings, it all added up to a mutual animosity they wore like armor. But when Maya's car broke down earlier that evening, she'd been left stranded by the side of the road. No one else stopped, not even the co-workers who drove past her, pretending not to see her waving frantically. Except Ethan. He pulled over reluctantly, rolling down his window just enough to shout over the howling wind. "Get in," he barked. "I'm not doing this because I care about you." "Trust me," Maya snapped back as she climbed inside, soaked from head to toe. "If I had another option, I wouldn't be here." They hadn't spoken since then, except for terse exchanges about directions or warnings to slow down. But now, as the hailstorm intensified, their fragile truce began to unravel. A massive chunk of ice struck Ethan's windshield, spiderwebbing it instantly. Another hit followed, and then another, until the glass gave way entirely. Shards flew everywhere, forcing both of them to shield their faces. Ethan swerved off the road, narrowly avoiding a collision with an overturned truck. His tires skidded on the icy pavement before coming to a stop near an old grocery shop, a decrepit relic standing alone amidst barren fields. "We can't stay here," Maya shouted, clutching her seatbelt. Her voice trembled, not just from fear of the storm, but something deeper, primal, something she couldn't quite name yet. "We don't have a choice," Ethan yelled back. "Look outside. Those hailstones are big enough to kill us." She glanced out the shattered window. The hailstones were monstrous, some nearly the size of softballs. They pelted the ground with deafening force, leaving craters wherever they landed. It felt like the world was ending. Reluctantly, they scrambled out of the car and ran toward the only shelter available, a small wooden shed attached to the side of the abandoned store. Its roof sagged under years of neglect, but it offered some protection from the relentless assault of ice. They huddled together beneath its splintered beams, shivering despite themselves. For a while there was nothing but the sound of hail battering the earth around them. Then came the silence. It wasn't peaceful. It was oppressive. The storm seemed to pause, holding its breath. Ethan and Maya exchanged uneasy glances. Neither dared to speak. And then they heard it. A faint creaking noise like footsteps on rotting wood. It came from inside the darkened shop behind them. Both froze, hearts pounding. The shed offered no escape. The entrance faced away from the building, meaning whoever or whatever was approaching would have the advantage. "Do you hear that?" Maya whispered, her voice barely audible. "Ignore it," Ethan muttered, though his knuckles whitened as he clenched his fists. Probably just the wind. But the sound grew louder, closer. A shadow moved across the broken windows of the shop, distorted by the flickering light of distant lightning. Whatever it wasn't human. Suddenly, the temperature dropped. Their breaths turned to mist in front of their faces. Maya instinctively reached for Ethan's arm, forgetting for a moment that she hated him. He stiffened but didn't pull away. "What is this place?" she murmured, her eyes darting nervously between the shop and the endless field beyond. Ethan shook his head. "I don't know, but we're not safe here." Before they could decide what to do, the door to the shop creaked open slowly, revealing a figure silhouetted against the dim interior. It stepped forward, dragging something heavy behind it. The object clattered against the floorboards. A rusted metal tool? A piece of furniture? Neither wanted to find out. Panic surged through them. Without speaking, they bolted from the shed, braving the hailstorm once more. Pain shot through their bodies as the ice struck exposed skin, but survival outweighed everything else. Hand in hand, they sprinted toward Ethan's car, which miraculously still ran. He fumbled with the keys, hands shaking violently, before finally starting the engine. As they sped away, neither looked back at the shop. But the memory of that shadow lingered, haunting them long after the storm subsided. Hours later, they found themselves parked on a quiet hill overlooking the city. The tension between them had shifted somehow. Gone was the hostility, replaced by an unspoken understanding born of shared trauma. "I'm sorry," Ethan said suddenly, breaking the silence. His voice was soft, almost hesitant. "For everything. For being such an ass to you." Maya blinked, surprised. I'm sorry too. You didn't deserve half the things I said to you." They sat there for a while longer, watching the first rays of dawn break through the clouds. In that moment, hatred melted away like frost under sunlight. What remained was gratitude, for surviving, for finding solace in each other's company, and for realizing that sometimes love blooms in the most unexpected places, even in the aftermath of terror.